Welcome. Warm yourself by the fire. Have a seat or snuggle up in your favorite spot and let me tell you a story. To the northward of Mississippi City and its neighbor Hansborough, there extends a tract of pine forest for miles, with but few habitations scattered through it. Black and red creeks, with their numerous branches, drain this region into the Pascagoula River to the eastward. With the swamps of the Pascagoula as refuge, and the luxuriant and unfrequented bottoms of red and black creeks to browse upon, there are few choicer spots for deer. Knowing this fact, a small party of gentlemen on the day before a crisp, cold Christmas started from Hansborough in a large four-wheeled wagon for a 30-mile drive into the wilderness of pine and a week's sport after the deer. The guide was Jim Carruthers, a true woodsman, and the driver, a jolly man named Jack Lyons, whom no one could make a better hoe cake and cook a venison steak. His laugh could be heard a quarter of a mile away, and his good nature was as expansive as the range of the laughter. The usual experiences of a hunting camp were heartily enjoyed during the first days of this life of outdoors. But its cream did not rise until about the fifth night, when, from familiar conversation, Jack Lyons became loquacious, and after the day's 20 or 25-mile walk, would spin yarns in front of the campfire which brought forgetfulness of fatigue. The night before New Year's Eve was intensely cold. The cold north wind of the afternoon had subsided at sunset, and only a gust now and again touched the musical needles of the pines, making them vibrant with the mournful score of nature's operas, which even maestros have failed to catch. In front of two new white tents, two sportsmen reclined at length within reach of the warmth of the fire, while opposite them rested at ease the guide and the worthy Jack Lyons. Wearied with the day's chase, 4 hounds, Ringwood, Rose, Jet, and Boxer, were dreaming of future quarry. The firelight brought out in bright relief the trunks of all the tall pines like cathedral columns, and sparkling through the leafy dome overhead the scintillating stars glistened with a diamond's brightness. A silence, which added its influence to the scene, rested about the borders of the creek below, and gave more effect to the story of the veteran teamster than perhaps it otherwise would have had. "If the deer run down the creek," said old Jack, smacking his lips over a carefully prepared brewing of the real Campbellton punch, "we're bound to see some fun tomorrow, for they'll take us down there by the old Gibbet's place. In daylight, there's no place like it, but after nightfall, you bet you won't catch this man there." Old Jack was naturally asked why he didn't care about visiting the Gibbet's place at night. Asking to be excused until he filled his pipe, the silence was unbroken until his return. He piled on more pine knots and commenced. "Well, you know, gentlemen, that when the gunboats were in the Sound, we folks had to travel way back here on these roads, out of range of their big guns. I was engaged by Mr. Harrison in hauling salt from the factory at Mississippi City on the beach over to Mobile, and I'd been making a trip every week or so. This backcountry road was never thought of by the Federals, and we had good times along the way. No shells, no shooting. The night, gentlemen, I'm speaking of was a Friday, that you all know is unlucky. Well, you see, I'd hitched up the team and took the biggest load of salt the team had ever carried. I started out and crossed the Biloxi River at Hansborough. just as the moon was going down. Yep, these roads were no better then than they are now, and the rain had made them even rougher when you came to the holes. I sat in the seat whistling and thinking of Sarah Jameson, what was afterwards my wife, when I felt the four-wheel crash in a hole upon the hub. I'd made 17 miles out of Hansborough. I did some cussing and then went to the fence, about 20 yards off, and took out a rail to pry up the wheel. Then I saw I was at Mr. Gibbet's place. I said to myself, I'll go up to the house and get old Mr. Gibbet to give me a turn. I had gone by 2 weeks before and seen the old man. Now, gentlemen, listen to me, for what I'm telling you is, well, it's as sure as a blown horn on Judgment Day. I walked up to the house, and there I saw a bright light inside. It shone out from the windows, and I saw shadows of the gibbets on the window curtain. The front door was shut, and I stepped up to the gallery and knocked with the butt end of my whip. I didn't knock loud, neither. God bless us, gentlemen. The lights went out like that, and I heard a laugh. How that set my knees to shaking. I opened the door, and there was no sign of anybody. I struck a match, and all the furniture was moved out, and the old red curtain that I thought I saw was in rags. The whole family was gone, without a doubt, and I didn't know exactly what to think about them strange voices, but I started back to the wagon as it was getting light, and bless my soul, there in the front yard was 6 graves, just made. Something was wrong here, I said, and I built a fire by the wagon and dug the wheel out. Just then, old Squire Pasture came along the road from Mobile and told me the news. Old man Gibbet had cut the throats of his wife and 4 children and shot himself out of jealousy of his wife. They were all buried in the front yard, and the house was deserted 10 days before. Gentlemen, when I heard that, them mules made the quickest time to Mobile I ever saw. And you can tell me there's no ghosts, but you won't catch me around that log house of gibbets except long after sunrise. Jack looked suspiciously over his shoulder into the darkness and crawled into his blanket, muttering, "It scares me even now to think about that night." Sleep soon fell upon the camp, but the impression of old Jack's story survived the night, and the next day he still asserted its truth. If you like these stories, subscribe, like, and share, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for future stories. And as always, I thank you for taking the time to listen.